As I search for the white dove, I wonder if she searches for me. Or if my hopes of finding her are nothing more than an ill-conceived fantasy. You see... Salutations, mortals, and welcome to From the Jump. Today we have a very special individual with us. This creative is, I must say, like, he's been one of my favorite poets for a very long time. It's the one and only MC Harry. Are you still going by the name MC Harry or just Harry?
Funny enough, I never...
Do you know?
I never get... That's the thing. Do I know that? I never even gave myself that name, to be truly honest. It's one of those situations... Not true story. Like, cause you know, when I arrived in Namibia, I just started jumping on stage and whatnot. So this was, okay, a little bit of a background. Fell in love with hip hop in PE. I always loved rap. Let me say that. I mean, dude, I was the first dude on the dance floor and the last one tearing it up with the Running Man. When the lights are coming on, even when they're playing those slow jams to kick you out the joint.
Yeah, like, yeah, you were in the club.
So I was in the club, and then there was then I hit the underground hip hop scene of the city where I was at, and this is Port Elizabeth in South Africa. And man, oh man, there was that, and also, you know, when I was in university, someone introduced me to Black Star, like Waterford Chocolate, and Black on Both Sides. Changed my life. So I moved into that side of things and started being creative and whatnot. And finally, after so many years, in fact, my story is like this. I always used to write poetry, and I was like, yeah, but the MCs are the MCs, yo.
They're special.
The untouchables. They walk this high off the ground type of thing. And then 8 Mile came out, and all of a sudden, in this university where hip hop appreciation was only for the minority, all of a sudden you know, there's people battle rapping around the corner, and there's this, and then for someone who's been listening to this for years, you know, you stumble across a cipher, and you're like, no, guys, that's whack. You guys are, you know. And instead of being that guy who's like, yeah, you're whack, I decided, put your money where your mouth is. So that's when I started freestyling, and then eventually. And I was doing it as a status quo type of thing. Like, look, guys, I know I'm not dope. I'm not a rapper. I'm just a fan. Yeah. But this is what I can do. And if you can't do better than this, please don't desecrate the sacred art form.
So you effectively became a gatekeeper. You made yourself a gatekeeper.
I did, but I didn't keep nothing out the gates.
Now, my question to you, or my first question to you, is, you know, speaking a bit on your creative background, as you said, you know, you've always loved hip hop, but you took it to another level. You know, you were like, hold on, if y'all are gonna be ciphering, let me try and rap so that we at least have a level that you shouldn't drop below. You know, if anything, it is basically what you. So, but you didn't stop there. You didn't stop there. I mean, you were part of a lot of different organizations and events managements in Windhoek and in Namibia around hip hop. Can you speak to us a bit about that?
Definitely. So when I came to Namibia, I had just started jumping on stage, so I started enjoying platforms like spoken word. At least that was still around. There was Verbalize at UNAM, One Mic, but I never had a chance to be on that platform. But you know, there was things happening. Plus, also in my smaller circles, you know, there were always events and things, you know, going on around hip hop. But one thing I noticed eventually, you know, as time goes by, hip hop didn't have a home. There isn't a single platform that you say, like, look, if you're looking for hip hop, go to this place. They'll let you know what's going on in and around hip hop everywhere. What we do is we have silos. You know, we have there's this, you know, there's this one here, there's that one there, and each one targets or has its own audience.
Yeah.
And what we were trying to do, especially, well, I guess, look at the first hip hop event I threw together was the one called Drafted to Babylon.
Okay.
And the idea of that was twofold. There was a group of young men that I was mentoring. And one thing that we all had in common is that we were either beat makers or MCs. So I'm like, okay, look, you know, why don't we just take this to the stage? You know, let's you know, share what, you know, the ideas we've been speaking, you know, let's build society, hence the name Drafted to Babylon, you know, step into it. Point. So we had no money, that sort of thing. And I was like, look, if you take your talents and you put them together and you just, you know, just be a bit creative in this way or that. We didn't stick up a single poster, not one poster.
Okay.
And yet we filled the entire warehouse on a zero budget. Plus, we used a live band to perform our music as well. And so you know, just doing that. So you're challenging the status quo all over again, and plus you're using your talents and your gifts to make a way for things to happen. And then later on, you know, Jonas came through and he was talking about how there's a lot of talented rappers up in Namibia. And obviously, you know, your cliquish mentality, man, you know, there's only a handful. And
that's
so
how
he asked me to. It's true. So he asked me to be an MC at the first cypher. I had a blast. I introduced a couple of rappers I never heard of, one or two that I knew, and man, that show was lit.
Yeah.
Then we had the second, then the third, and and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, you know, hold on. There's the Windhoek Jazz Festival. Rappers do perform there, but we're guests there. There's the Namas. Hip hop was still, you know, a guest at the Namas.
At the Namas,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, there's nothing where we say, yo, here's a hip hop platform. You love hip hop? Come here. So that's what we were trying to push for with the ciphers and also the decipher thing. So because at the end of the day, it's not about building ourselves as, you know, putting ourselves on a pedestal as rappers or event coordinators, but to say, guys, if we're really gonna say for the culture, let's do it let's let the culture have a home, let it have a launch pad.
Definitely. Now, you see, you just alluded to something which was going to be my next question, question statement, I guess. You know, when it comes to collaboration, now I'm a person that truly believes in collaborative work and along different spheres. It doesn't, not just necessarily music, but you know, as you just said, you guys filled up the Warehouse Theater, which is not a small thing to do by any means, with not even a single poster up. That's all word of mouth.
And by an unknown group.
Exactly.
You know?
So you guys literally went in and used your networks, your personal networks, your business networks as well. And you know, we're like, look, let's move it with word of mouth. Let's get it out there that this is happening, and you achieved that, right? So my question is, would you say that collaboration is, of course, you'd say that it's important, but would you say that Namibians are doing enough collaboration-wise, you know, when it comes to projects? Of course, we're doing more than we were, but would you say we're doing enough, right? Even at this point in time?
In collaboration, you can get synergy, right? When I used to work for a charity organization, I want to give that. I want to use this as an example. We know in maths, right? 1 + 1 is 2, right? That's you know, that's,
we hope we know that.
That's the result of we hope. that's you know, that's what we would hope for in a collaboration. You know, you bring your piece, I bring my piece, we put them together, we get 2. However, if there's synergy, and that word synergy means 1 + 1 = 3. You know, you don't add, you kind of you grow exponentially from that. So here's what I was. So it's not just a win-win situation. It's a win-win-win. It keeps growing. So because of spoken word and those platforms, and I was working at a charity organization. This is what I do. I liked events. I knew people who liked performing, and I knew people who like being entertained.
Got you.
So
Got you.
here are people who enjoy performing. Here are people who like being entertained. Let's put them together. Now, when that collaboration happens, obviously, you know, let's have a little fee at the door and that sort of thing. Da, 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 da. And what was the end result of that? We did something that company A enjoys, company B enjoys, put them together. There's a little fund generated, and that goes to help less fortunate people.
Yeah.
It's a win-win-win situation, type of thing. And these are the type I expect from, learning how to collaborate. Collaborating is not just let's together. When it is, but when you guys resonate, it turns into something more than, it's who featuring who. When that resonating happens, it grows. I mean, this is why brands endorse athletes.
Got you.
I mean,
yeah. It just,
Nike wouldn't be Nike without Michael Jordan.
As we also have seen clearly.
As we've, Chicago Bulls would still be on ESPN Channel 9. But no, I'm just saying, if because of the right partnerships and the right groups of people working together in the right way,
yes,
a lot can happen. So the more collaborations we do, the better we learn how to synergize, the better we, because the arts are so underrated here.
I agree. And underexposed at the same time.
Underexposed, underrated, and the potential of what could happen is limitless.
And we'll get to that. I mean, speaking of potential, the first time I saw you perform was you did, I think I've told you this before. You were doing the poem, what was it? The teddy bear poem, right?
The yellow teddy bear.
Yeah, that when I heard you, because the thing wasn't necessarily what you were saying, it was how you delivered that poem and the energy behind it. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, that's a fucking hard poem, man. Like, what? This man talking about a teddy bear, bro. And like from then onwards, like the growth, I've seen you in different spheres of your creative journey, you know what I mean? Like from there onwards. And for me, you've always been this person that's level-headed. You don't say too much. You don't act crazy. I don't even think I've ever seen you actually drunk. So what is the time that Harry just loses it a bit? Like people, what is that one thing that people piss you off with that you clearly you don't react to it, but what is it that you're like, fuck, I wish they would stop doing that. I wish they would stop doing that.
All right, so the man, it's so sad. Things that make my blood boil.
Basically, what grinds your gears?
What grinds my gears, man? I would say it's really weird. I would say that the first thing that I noticed grinds my gears, because generally I'm a chill dude. I'm hella patient. The thing that grinds my gears, though, like without fail, and I noticed this when I was coming up in my early 20s. Because you can come at me, you can say all sorts of things and whatever, and I'll just brush it off, water for ducks back. But do that to someone I care about, man. Like, oh man, like I was telling my son the other day, because he's never seen me lose my temper, but I was telling him, like, but when it happens, it's not the prettiest thing. It's so I reiterated this story of when we're in university. My roommate in my first year, unfortunately had some, bad circumstances happening. So he had a mental breakdown. Part of the result of his mental breakdown was one day my girlfriend came to visit me, who's my wife currently, and he snapped and spazzed on her. Like, why are you looking at me? Whoa. And we're just like, okay.
What?
And he storms out of the room. And I'm like, what just happened? But I'm like, hold up, babe, I'll be back. I get up, I follow the dude. Dude went to the bathroom, and I'm like, bruh, what's going on? If anything is what take it out on me, but do not do that to me. But the guy was not listening.
Just a second. All right, sorry for that interruption. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so as I'm talking to this guy, it's like you can clearly see like words are not reaching him. He's just ignoring me, just doing his own thing, what. And I'm like, and he walks away. So I'm like, okay, at least, you know, he's heard me and that sort of thing. And he went and picked up a dustbin lid, went back to the room, opened the door, and I'm just like coming out the bathroom now. And he's holding this lid, yelling at my woman, think I'm scared of you. Think I'm scared of you. Da, 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 da. And oh man, dude. Well, let's just say this.
Yeah, you clearly whooped his ass. You know.
Here's the thing. I was hoping he would touch me so that I would. But he was a big dude. But here's the thing. When I kind of just like, no, oh, hell no type of thing, I got in between him and my lady. We went into the corridor. By this time, the whole hostel is like, yo, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for him just to touch me. But obviously I was speaking out. And anyway, when all was said and done, you know, later on found out, you know, dude had a mental breakdown or whatnot. So my heart went out to the guy, whatever. But when my girlfriend and I talked about it afterwards, she said she was more scared of me than she was of him.
Because she's never seen you react like that before.
Never.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, so that, you know, go at somebody I care about, that will grind my gears. Number two, I don't want to say stupidity, but there's certain level. There's certain level. Let me say
willful ignorance.
You know, willful ignorance.
Gotcha.
It's one thing to not know something. That's cool, and then we talk about it, and you're like, oh, okay. I don't know. There's that.
Yeah.
And then there's just ignorance where it's just like, I'll probably rub some people the wrong way if I touch on the butt. But honestly, like, yeah, no, it's cool. Let's just leave it at that.
I'm totally in agreement. I'm totally in agreement with you. Willful ignorance is one of those things where people just refuse to update their knowledge bank. Like, even if you present them with the facts, they're not going to go with it at all because they just don't want to. They don't want to know. So you're literally wasting your time.
Like the last time I was being blasted on a social media platform was when someone asked, you know, what's the greatest diss track time? I mean, or what's your top 5 or whatever?
Yeah.
I wrote my top 5, and it did not have Tupac hit 'em up.
I remember reading that post.
I was being, oh yeah, you think you're hip hop PhD holder with your. I'm like, but I'm sharing my opinion. I have reasons Tupac is not here. I hear them. You know, have you even listened to the guys that I'm talking about? You know, let's be objective. Nah, man. But anyway, yeah, that sort of it just made me roll my eyes and like whatever.
But you see, that's the thing. It's people ask who's in your top 5. You asked for my top 5. You didn't ask who are the top 5 of all time factually. Like, you know, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the what. Let's look at how many performances they've had, how many tours they sold out. Like, all of that is a different conversation from you asking who's in your top 5. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
And people forget that little factor. Like, it's mine. It's a personal list, bro.
And they get all rah, and it's like and at some point they stop talking to you and they start talking to people about you
yeah,
that resonate with what they're saying. You know,
got you.
look
They're
at
looking for
this
that backup.
old dude. Right, that's me, and that's because I guess on the other side of the spectrum, what grinds my gears, you know, the total opposite is really what I enjoy. If you know, I hate pointless arguments, but I love conversation. I love, just, getting to talk to people, getting to know their side of things, you know, their perspectives and stuff like that. And it enriches me, and hopefully I can impart something to somebody else. And I mean, we might not even see eye to eye, but at least we have, you know, a mutual respect.
Yes. No, definitely. And then that brings me to my next question. If you could give a piece of advice, just one piece of advice to any up-and-coming creative in any industry, what would be that one piece of advice that you give them?
Don't be ignorant. That's the first thing that's coming to my mind right now.
Okay, no, that's...
And I say this for a variety of reasons. For example, if you're going to be a hip hop artist, let me go there. We have a lot of rappers that sound the same. They're not delving into, okay, I don't like this dude, but why is he great?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, or it's just, don't be ignorant in the sense of this formula works and that's what I'm gonna do. Because you're being ignorant. You're not exploring yourself.
Got you.
You mentioned, you were saying to me, like, when I did that teddy bear performance, it was not the most lyrical thing I have ever done. In fact, it's probably the most basic one. And yet the energy from it speaks volumes.
Exactly.
And I always try and tell people, don't just be another rapper. Be an artist. Because it's about creating an energy, about evoking an emotion and that sort of thing. Not just that, oh man, you were lit. Okay, the beat was banging. Okay, but what is it?
It's the most underhanded compliment of all time to tell a rapper, yo, the beat was banging.
People are like, because at the end of the day, which is why I'm like, listen, beat selection shouldn't be the most important thing. Yes, it's a canvas, it's a vehicle, it helps. But at the end of the day, it's you are the main thing. Even in the corporate world, we see, like, now I'm a presentation skills consultant.
Yeah.
So now when people are doing a PowerPoint presentation, you just get slides and slides with words and words, and they're just reading. And what's the important thing in that presentation? It's the slides. If the slides go, the person falls apart and is like, they have nothing to offer. And yet, who made those slides? It's the presenter. It's their knowledge that's the important thing. Let's not make the aid the main thing. So that type of ignorance of not knowing how to expand your craft. Look at yourself.
Yeah. So basically, and don't be lazy. Yeah. Don't be lazy. Is basically what you're saying. Like, do the research, learn your craft, find out the different ways that it came to be where you are, and then decide, okay, which way I'm gonna go with it or not.
Did you see there was an argument online about leasing beats? There was some prominent or active rappers that were foreign to the term of leasing beats, because they were like, yo, so and so has the same beat as this other artist in another country, and they were biting. And again, it goes back to that whole ignorance thing. If you're an MC and you want to do things, these are some of the resources that you might need to tap into later. Instead, they started dissing the dude. See, he copied but then when they look at the timeline, this person they were dissing released it first. Mm-hmm. And then they come up another angle of, hey, jokingly taunting and say, hey, yo, Oken, when you make a track with that beat, just swing it and I'll release it as well. Again, without even looking at things like that.
How the process actually works out.
Multiple syllabic rhyming. Like there was one time someone asked a comment, are there any rappers who use multiple syllables in terms of rhyme?
Mm-mm.
and someone posted their song and just wrote their comment and in the comment underneath saying, "You're welcome." I listened to that song. They did a bit of rapping, but there was no multiple syllabic rhyming. It was at most was 2 to 3 syllables.
Yeah, because they don't understand the rhyme scheme of it.
They did not understand what rhyme scheme is. So again, they're exposing their ignorance. You try and say, what the dude means or this, and they're like, oh man, you just, who do you think you are? I'm more famous than you. See, ignorance.
Yeah, but you see, this is the thing. So people just refuse to learn anymore. You know, everybody wants to be the master, but nobody wants to be the student. And that's how you become the master. In order to become the master, you first have to be the prudent student that is actually doing the work to be the master.
Everyone just wants to skip that process and just be like, bam, here's my first single and I'm on this major platform. Do the work, get in the trenches, cypher for 4 people, get into, but yeah.
and that brings me to my question on when you first stepped into a studio, the first time that you were like, okay, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna record this track or this verse that I've done. Can you tell us just a bit about because for me, the first time I walked in the studio, I was like, oh, so this is what it's like. Oh, so this is what happens. You know what I mean? When you went through that process, the full-on recording process of from writing it to getting into studio to paying that studio time to then getting in the booth to getting the tracks back from the producer, which also is a freaking mission most of the damn time, to then releasing, that entire, was it something, that process, was there somebody that helped you through that process of how to go step by step? Or was it more of a feel around trial by error type of thing?
It was a touch and go. It was a touch and go. Again, basically because of the people that were around me and also for the reasons that I was rapping. Remember, I was rapping just to be a gatekeeper, as you put it. And so I wasn't, people be like, you're good. When are you going to release a song or an album? I'm like, well, when I have something to say, maybe I'll go in and record something.
Yeah.
That type of thing. But in the meantime, all I'm doing is freestyling, here at the bride party, whatever. And one day this dude heard me, DJ IQ, and we were boys, but I didn't know this dude made fire beats. The Book of Proverbs' first album. There was a DJ that he worked with, a beat maker called Nyems. If you look at the credits, in fact, Nyems also worked with B-Phil as well. I think with B-Phil, so it's like that type of caliber of beat maker, and he was like a protege, and he's like, oh, so after this, he's like saying, oh no, Harry is dope. I want to record him. So now I'm just thinking, it's just yap. Then he drops a mixtape of beats he made, and I'm listening to other rappers killing it. I'm like, what? And that was dope. But again, I'm not recording anything because all I'm doing is ABC. Then I went over to a cypher where this guy called J Bucks, he gets on stage and he rants. He didn't have a track, didn't have a beat. It wasn't even written. And he's just going on like, guys, respect your craft. Respect your craft enough to make sacrifices. Take the time to sit down and pen something. Make sure it's dope. Look at it over again. Practice it, polish it. Take $200 that you would have blown in the night out. Go to Who's studio and get in there. And that night, I went home and wrote my first rhyme. And when IQ said, yo, I'm going to record this dude, and I heard his stuff, I'm like, yo, okay, I've got something to record. And so, bedroom set up and that sort of thing, did that. But as time went, the different types of recordings have evolved. I mean,
definitely.
Like, for example, when I collaborated with you guys, you're good looking out for that.
That was a dope track.
I love it. That writing process, you came to me with a concept and you're like, this is what's going on. This is the story we're telling. There we go. That's a nice writing brief. another producer I worked with, like, oh yeah, another thing that kind of irks me when a producer gives me a beat and says, "Do what you want with it." I'm like, oh, are you kidding? Because I'm an thinker. I will ponder and construct and deconstruct, and it could take forever. But if you say like this track I did with another guy, Boy Makes Beats.
Yeah.
He gave me a beat, and he says, this is how it works. Each verse is 8 bars. At the end of each eight bars, you get the words "only pain." I want you to tell a story about a guy who is trying and just keeps on ending only pain. But at the end, I want that only pain to be twisted.
Man, this internet and doing this. Why now?
I could hear you.
Oh, okay, there, you're back. Can you hear me? Okay. Just 1 second. Let me quickly just kick people off the internet so it doesn't happen again.
Okay.
I think that might be the reason. You were talking about doing the track with. Okay, yeah, you were told about the beats. So it's eight bars on it's 8 bars or whatever, and then like the end of the song or end of the bar was a term. There's
a sample. There's a sample. Yeah. That says "only pain."
There we go.
You know, and and so it was, I think it's a 5-6 verse track, and no hook or nothing. There's just little breaks of the words "only pain."
Okay. And
I had to talk about situations that a person's going through and that end up in only pain and this and that and that. You know, he tries this fails. This is that. Now, but the twist is at the end of the song, he's supposed to have a win. You know, like even when the sample says "only pain," it's gonna be like, yo, that's flipping it, you know?
Got you.
And to me, that's heaven sent. You've given me the perimeters to work with. You've given me a concept. You know, now the beat literally speaks to the song. I can't just take this song, put it on another beat, and it'll work, you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
Or let me say it wouldn't work as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's sort of conceptual, you know, so I got to work with people who are conceptual. There's another producer I worked with at some point. His name was Lindsay. Man, that dude, he pushed me. He's like, dude, you haven't written anything? And he's like literally making a beat like right there and then. We arrive at the studio, he sits on the keyboard, he plays like ding, 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 ding. He's like, what do you think of that? And I'm like, it's okay, I guess. And he like cracks his fingers, and then he starts playing like smooth chords and stuff, and works that same melody he was doing, but like now it's fuller, and it's like, and he's like, okay, great, that's done, rap to it.
And you like, wait,
let me start. No.
What?
So what I'm trying to say is this: I've encountered so many different recording scenarios and different ways that producers work that I think it's helped me expand. And as an MC, one of the things I like about, or I appreciate about the difference between MCs and rappers. Yes, rappers can rap. They rap. But an MC is one who can situation and adjust accordingly.
I got you.
You know,
it's all about the adapting.
They're on stage at the moment. Exactly. It's all about the adapting. It sound is bad. Okay, cut the beat. Let's do a cappella.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some rappers would freak out if that happened. You know, it's the wrong instrumental. MC will just find it. Just like, all right, cool, whatever. Let's do this. You know.
Yeah. You make a plan.
You make a plan. You know, there and then. And one of my favorite outcomes of working with a variety of producers, I think Moisesh being one and Christian Poloni being another. I was doing a voiceover for Christian Poloni at some point. Elemoto was in the studio. I didn't even know who Elemoto was at the time. So I'm there chatting with this dude who's wearing this nice brown leather jacket. And we're talking music from Nas to Michael Jackson. And I'm like, I like this.
That's how those convos will go down.
Yeah. So now Christian Poloni's like, okay, yeah, we're done. Hey, I've got this beat. It's a song we're working on. Do you want to just, in his French accent, Harry, just do a little freestyle, quoi. Harry, my dear, just. So I'm like, okay, cool. I step in the booth. At the time, I was listening to Odd Thomas, so if your flow kind of adapts to who you're listening to, and then I'm doing this awkward flow over this beat and just freestyling. I'm just vibing with what he told me the song was about, and just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
And again, that was years ago. I'll pause that story there, and I'll share another one that happened recently. I'm doing another voiceover for this other guy, Moisesh, and during the break, he's playing this song. It's like this soulful R&B type track. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, who is this? I'm thinking it's some artist from the US and whatnot. And like, I need a person. And she's like, oh, her name's Alta. She's, from Windhoek. My jaw drops. I'm like, the vocal ability of this person and how she's maneuvering in this song. I'm like,
exactly.
Damn. Then I notice a gap in the instrumental. So I'm like, let me go kick a freestyle there. Mm-hmm. So I did a couple of freestyles. Now, the way both of these stories ended was a phone like, remember that freestyle? We want it on the track. And I was like, nice.
Let's do that. Let's do that one.
Cool. So that's one of my favorite, growing stories that I'm really proud of. Was just one of those things that just make me appreciate the various ways of recording. The song I did with Placius, I had to write that. I had to write that there. I had to sit. Oh, it's okay. And so from writing concept to being given an idea and putting your interpretation on it, and to just feeling what someone else is doing and then just freestyling, and then it ends up being good enough for a person to say, I'm putting it on my album. But
you see, that speaks a lot to, for me at least, it speaks a lot to the fact that, it's not just about going into the studio or getting in the booth and just recording. I mean, I have a setup here. I have my own studio, but recording is more than just the act of recording. You're actually in there with somebody that's giving you feedback, as you said. So you get the different producers that just sit back and are like, do whatever you're gonna do on it. But those that actually guide you, the first time I did a voiceover was with Christian Poloni. He was the first. That was the first time ever, and I was in there, and the way even he guided me then was like, in that weird French accent of his again, and he's like, I want you to laugh before you go into the thing, and I'm like, laugh? This is like, the voiceover doesn't call for no laughing, and he's like, no, laugh and then do the voiceover, and it totally changed the way that I started approaching recording and everything, because it's not just this, but you only learn that if you have the producer that can teach you that. You know what I mean?
That can teach you that.
That comes, as you just said, like the whole way that first feature of yours on a track came by collaboration, by not standing in your own way.
Okay, first of all, if people are wondering, yo, Harry, so what projects have you done and that sort of thing? Well, my excuse is, listen, I'm on my J Electronica, at least before he dropped an album. I focus on doing features, and my interest is more in conversation and dialogue and that sort of thing. So every now and then I might do a track on my own and that sort of thing. But generally speaking, I focus more on collaborations. And again, because my ambition is not to be, it's not in my ambition to be like, I'm a rapper for a living. This is what I do. No. It is what I do, and it's. But
it's not like your overall goal. It's not like that's what I'm aiming.
Yeah. It's a channel that I use. So if someone said, Harry, you're never rapping again, I'm like, cool, that's fine. Whatever it is I was gonna say in my raps, I'm still gonna say on a different platform anyway. Spoken word, public speaking, all these sorts of things. So anyway, great, I lost my point. So I was saying, like, in this particular instance, like, when I, I've come to a point where I choose where I can say yes and no based on, so if someone says, yeah, let's do a collab, and I don't really resonate with what it is they're doing or whatever, like, I mean, if the guy says, hey, I've got this track, or with a person and that sort of thing, and I'm like, okay, I'll approach it in either one of two ways. One, to either teach, to say, okay, this is where you're at, this is what you could do,
okay,
same beat, same concept. You want to talk about lean and bitches and whatnot and that sort of thing, that's not my steez, so that's an easy no for me. But I can also take that opportunity to say, okay, cool, let me share my perspective on these issues or on this topic from my angle. Now you will see, when I rap about lean, this is what I'm saying. When I rap about girls and money, this is the perspective I'm coming from. So it's not always about this whole ignorant type thing. And so I have turned down a couple of shows, or because I'm like, no,
they just cool. Don't. They don't align with your brand, as the youngsters will say nowadays.
and the cool thing, and here's the thing. So some of those, there were opportunities that would have come from that, but I don't see those as L's, because I can still see that I've kept my brand intact. I've kept my integrity intact. I'm not just this dude who's everywhere and anywhere all the time. So that works for me. That's who I am. That's how I work. This thing with Fred, I when I look at the other side of the coin,
it stings a bit still.
It comes to that point where, like, it was at that moment that he knew,
and his life would never be the same.
If Freddie ever gets to hear this, man, like, I'm practically a fan that he's never met, because I just met. We have so many mutual friends, but I'm just not.
Yo, just hit up the DM, bro. It's quarantine time. It's 2020 quarantine time. You gotta just hit up the DM and be like, I hit up 50 Cent's DM the other day, and I was like, yo, I got a series idea for you, bro. You got money to make out here, and he never hit me back. But it could happen.
Speaking of sliding into people's DMs or just hollering at them on social media, I got to again, I'm always on that preaching type tip, like if we have a conversation, please leave a little knowing something more than what you knew before type of thing. Maybe people find it annoying, I don't know, but we were talking about creating an album, and I was saying, do you know what types of albums are really missing? Conceptual albums. And as I was trying to explain what a conceptual album is, in terms of the beat and the song, and there's actually a storyline. So I gave an example of two rappers, Evangel and Master Ace. But Master Ace is on my top of the list because, I mean, how many albums is it in a row that are literally telling one story about a character, and it's just throughout, and yet the albums are different, the songs are, you can listen to the song individually, but if you listen to the whole thing, it's a beautiful story, man. And so I'm like, that is conceptual. And so, I after having such a conversation, my appreciation and love for Master Ace was just overflowing, that I just wrote a tweet, and just at Master Ace, in there. The dude hollered back, told me, talked to me about the fall season, and that was nice.
Full on convo with you. And that's the thing, like, people forget that artists are literally just human beings. So like, if you approach somebody from an angle of, respect, and just trying to, just dab somebody up virtually, most artists will be like, bless you, let me hit you back. What's really good? I got time, I ain't got a show right now. So like, that is generally how it is. And I hope that people learn from this like experience in this conversation that we've had, that there's a lot more that goes into, just taking that first step. Just if you take the first step, you're already winning most of the battle. But to just sit there and be like, man, I wish I could rap, because I don't like the way these guys are rapping around, like you were saying, but not rapping, like not putting your money where your mouth is, then what's the point of it, right?
Yeah. And if I'm very honest, when I listen back to my content, yes, I was still nice with the words, but man, delivery is cringeworthy, you know. But and that also taught me something, that, you know, you can't dismiss someone because you don't like them the first time. Give them time. They may evolve and grow. I believe I've evolved and grown. Yeah. Something popped up. You know, the whole thing of, okay, not shooting your shot. Oh yes, relate to your audience. I think that's a big thing that a lot of upcoming people are missing out on. With social media, we get bombarded with a whole bunch of, yo, peep this track, it's fire. Oh, this one's for the summer. Oh, this one's for the culture. You know, but when you have a conversation, like, for example, like, let's say me and you have this conversation now, and let's assume you haven't heard this song Only Pain that I mentioned, you might want to check it out. See, like, okay, what was he talking about? It sounded interesting. That, because we're interacting, we're engaging and connecting, it increases the chances of you checking out something.
Gotcha.
Now, this thing of listen to it is fine. Now, and I think a lot of people miss out on a lot of opportunities because they don't engage. They don't meet their audience at the point
they're
of,
like, I'm hot shit, listen to my song.
Interest. Yeah, they don't meet the audience at their point of interest. They're just be like, yeah, no, I know I'm the illest, so, you know, come through, listen. No, if we engage. Like, I'll give another example. I saw, you know, this rapper, My Verse.
No.
Okay, there's
this Namibian?
girl. No, it's actually a lady. Okay. She's from California. Okay. And she is a mean battle rapper, freestyler, poet type of person. Mm-hmm. And I like her battle rap. She's nice with those, you know, Sandra Bullock lookalike that spits fire.
I got you.
And if I win this battle, can I get a 16?
And
you know what I mean? Like, she said that would be nice.
And there you go. You see what I'm saying? Like, people really think that, like, okay, look, not every artist is gonna be like, yeah, fuck, man, cool, let's do it. Most won't. But there's no way you're gonna know. It's like going to a store. You know, every time I go to a store, I have this thing that I do. I ask, can I get a discount when I'm at the till? Like, I'm probably not gonna get the discount, but what if she says, yes, you can? What if the person at the till says, yes, you can get a discount? Like, oh, for real? Like, you will never know unless you ask, right?
Hey, they matter.
Harry, thanks again, man. This was blessed, my brother. Thank you so much.
Bam. No, I must thank you. Thanks for hitting me up. I really appreciate it.
Nah, for sure. There was no question. No. As I search for the white dove, I wonder if she searches for me, or if my hopes of finding her are nothing more than an ill-conceived fantasy. You see, I constantly think about one, yet seem to dream about another, making it almost impossible to visualize myself being with either. Thereby,